Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
Try this at home.
Josh Renkens, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, what a pleasure. So we met through an unfortunate circumstance with my lower back.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of glad we did because it's healing very nicely.
Yeah.
And now you're on the podcast.
No, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to help you out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you?
Doing well.
Yeah?
Things are good.
Good. How's business?
Business is great.
Okay.
We actually, for this year, I know it presented a lot of different things for a lot of different people and a lot of different businesses, but I'm happy to say that we survived and actually thrived through some of the, the pandemic times. And we're in an exciting time right now. As a matter of fact, we're doing a renovation of my office, about a 2-week project, but it's going to give us about 500 square feet of functional space.
Okay.
In addition to what I did have. So
I didn't see anything going on when I was there.
Yeah.
Is this just recent?
Just recent.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it just started last Friday.
Where is the extra space? Like towards the back?
Toward the back.
Or that wall? The wall.
Yeah.
You're not knocking out that wall with all the nice kind of artwork on it or anything.
No.
Okay.
No. It's more so when you walked in, there was the PT area right at the edge of the turf. Mm-hmm. And there was a banister, like a railing, like kind of a divider, just to flow traffic behind the PTs, between the PTs and the restrooms, the locker rooms. And what we did was we took out the divider and we pushed the PT tables up to that back wall. And then we built 2 openings basically to build a hallway that goes to the bathrooms.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's going to be great. And it should be done. Matter of fact, it'll be done this Sunday already. So
nice. Now, are you doing this because you've had increased demand and you just mentioned that business is good? Did your business actually tick up with COVID?
It, I don't think it had anything to do with COVID, obviously, but I think it has a lot to do with my team. The people have surrounded me. Okay. I've just been blessed and fortunate to have great people around me that do a great job. And, the word is, I think, just spread. We've gotten lots of referrals. And so the reason for the expansion was just the team is growing a little bit.
I see. Okay.
I got, some things I want to do with that.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm happy to hear it. Congratulations. I mean, I found out about you from Amy's husband, Jesse. He saw you. I mean, you probably don't remember all your patients, but he saw you. I mean, this was a couple years ago, I think, for something in his foot. And he was like, see this guy, he really helped. Yeah. So I went and saw you, and you really helped.
Well, thank you.
I'm not surprised you're growing.
Well, I appreciate it.
I have a chip on my shoulder today because I'm reading a lot of stuff that's not making a lot of sense about COVID-19 and general health. Like apparently it's a big deal whether you're overweight or not with COVID. And it's just not something you're hearing a lot about. What have you experienced, I guess, at your clinic with COVID-19? I mean, is this something where you feel the people coming in there are aware of how dangerous it can be to be lethargic and overweight and those types of things? Or are you kind of dealing with a particular crowd that kind of has an awareness there that maybe the general American public does not? It just seems like, case in point, Krispy Kreme just announced yesterday or today that they're going to give a free donut to everyone every day who gets the vaccination. Every day. And they are... Dude, you can't make this stuff up. And they're backdating it. So if you get the vaccine today, you don't get a free donut for the rest of the year. You get to go back and stock up on what you missed year to date.
Oh my
This is absurd.
That's absurd.
It's just absurd. And like I saw a stat. Let me read you a stat that I just saw. 42. Well, first of all, 78% of hospitalizations were people that were overweight. That's a lot.
Yep.
I mean,
I've seen that statistic.
That's a large chunk of all hospitalizations. Being obese increased your likelihood of needing intensive care by 74%. It also increased your likelihood of dying from the virus by 48%. I mean, 48% is a lot. Like if they'd come out and say, hey, we got something for you that cuts the chance of you dying from COVID-19 in half. Well, not technically in half, by 48%. And you know what that is? It's not to be overweight. That's a big deal. Like, we're all excited about this vaccination, which has almost 100% success rate, apparently, which is fantastic. Well, there's one thing that we could have been doing in the meantime to cut our chance of dying by 48%, and that's not being fat. And but then here's what kind of unsettled me was, one, the Krispy Kreme thing. And that's CNN announced that. It's like, man, we have, like, we can't post stuff on social media about anything COVID-19 related or about vaccinations without getting that little, like, fact check link. You know what I mean? But they're because they're trying not to let, like, bad things go out to the general American public. And yet CNN's allowed to pump this news about donuts that we can all go get free donuts. Like, that's actually dangerous when you read these stats. During COVID-19, 42% of Americans reported undesired weight gains. And get this, the average weight gain was 29 pounds. Dude, that's so much. I mean, let's be honest here. That's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight.
And for millennials, the average weight gain was 41 pounds. And I mean, this sounds like it can't be true. Like, it sounds to me like...
That's just in a year.
Yeah, that's during COVID-19.
Wow, okay.
The average... now, it's not everyone. It's not every millennial, because only 42% of Americans reported undesired weight gains. Of those 42%, if you were millennial, you put on an average of 41 pounds. I mean, that's taking someone from 150 pounds to 191 pounds. That's a lot. And it probably wasn't muscle. So it's just... Well, and here, all right, last thing. Dude, it's just not making sense, man. I mean, and by the way, I'm happy that we have, like, vaccinations coming out now, and, like, some of this, I'm happy to see, like, numbers decreasing. It seems like we're kind of getting a little bit of a handle on it. It's just a lot of the stuff is just, it seems really strange that none of the major news outlets or really anyone is, like, talking about how dangerous being overweight and obese is. So I'm Googling some stuff because, like, this stuff is bothering me today, right? So I went to the CDC website, and this is as of today, March 23rd. They have suggestions for combating undesired weight. And you want to know what their first two suggestions are? Number one, take your prescription medicine for overweight, obesity, or severe obesity exactly as prescribed. That's their number one suggestion on the CDC. Number two suggestion, make sure that you have 30 days of that prescription. Wow. It's like, dude, what is going on?
Yeah,
it's so crazy.
That's backwards.
What are you seeing from the people coming by your practice? Like, do people generally kind of have a handle on how beneficial it is to be healthy and within the right weight range and be active and take vitamin D and be in the sun? Like, do you see people, like, have a good handle on that? Or
yeah, I would, you know, just adding a little bit to what your comments were, you know, the thing that we know that this virus has done damage, unprecedented damage to, you know, our country and the world at large. But one of the things I think has failed to be talked about in most circles is the host, and that being us. You know, like you say, everybody's talking about the virus does this, the virus does that. Nobody really talks about, okay, what's on the receiving end of the virus.
That's true.
So there's kind of my answer to your question in a roundabout way. You know, the population that we tend to see in our office, in my clinic, I think is a population that takes their health very seriously. And what I mean by that is they are willing to take responsibility for their health. So those are the same people that typically are thinking about building themselves up, you know, with the proper defenses. You know, like you said, taking supplements such as D, C, you know,
zinc is very good.
Big for your immune system. You know, there's some other herbs, astragalus and ashwagandha and things that lower stress and cortisol levels. But there are also people that are out being active that tend to manage their weight. You know, they get adequate sleep. They eat healthy foods that are going to fuel their system and keep their immune system robust. You know, so like I said, that's a kind of a roundabout answer to your question. But yeah, I mean, we get people, there's no question. I mean, I have encountered some people in my office that have been affected by this thing not personally, but family members. And of course, you know, your heart always goes out to those people, and you're like, wow, this thing does have a tremendous effect. But I think when at the end of the day, we still have to take responsibility, you know, for what we're doing, our part in it. So to your point, if you're eating not good food, and you're not moving, you're not exercising, you're not surrounding yourself with, you know, love and like-minded people, all those things, not sleeping, all those things are going to lower your immune system and, of course, make you a little bit more vulnerable to any virus or bacteria out there.
Do you know if the transmission is easier if you're unhealthy versus healthy? Do you know what I mean? Like, it seems apparent that having COVID-19 have an adverse effect, like a significantly adverse effect on someone, that happens, you know, way easier. Like it's a lot worse on people that are unhealthy. And for people that are more healthy, most of what I'm hearing anyway, it's losing smell, taste, you know, maybe get the chills or muscle aches for a day or two. And that's mostly it. Like I'm sure there's plenty of exceptions. But how about the transmission?
Right.
Do you know anything about that?
I don't know for certain, but I would, you know, an educated sort of guess would be, hey, the transmission is, you're not going to be as susceptible, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying, let me see if I can say it really clearly. If you have two people, one person very healthy, one person very unhealthy, and the same amount of virus gets them both, does it transmit easier through the unhealthy person than the healthy person? Like on to the next party?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know about the transmission, that particular word maybe, but what I would say is the healthy person certainly has a better defense.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I think there's a high likelihood that the number of people that come in and out of our clinic every day, I mean, I don't know, but I would venture to guess that maybe I've been exposed to it.
I would think so. Yeah, that's probably a pretty safe guess.
I don't, you know, statistically speaking, it's probably reasonable to say that.
Yeah.
But I have not had it.
Okay.
That I'm aware of. I've been tested, but the times that I've been tested, I have not had it. So I don't know. I mean, you know.
The transmission is something that I would be curious about. We should look that up at some point, Kobe, because the one thing I'm hearing with the vaccinations, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. I see why they're saying it. I understand the premise, but it's this idea that, hey, you might not want the vaccination for yourself, but think about other people, and you should probably get it for the sake of other people. I understand that reasoning. But if it's true that an unhealthy person or an overweight person or an obese person transmits the virus more easily than a very healthy person, then the same logic should apply. And we should be able to say, you need to get the vaccine because you might, if you don't, you might transfer that virus to me, whereby you need to get the vaccine. If we're willing to say that, then we also need to say, Kobe, you need to lose some weight because if you don't, you're going to more easily transfer that vaccine to me. Or I'm sorry, transfer the virus to me. But no one's saying that. And maybe it's not true. Maybe healthy people transmit it as easily as unhealthy people or overweight people. I don't know. Something we should look into at some point. How have you handled it? Have you just been trying to take extra precautions and, you know, the vitamins and zinc and everything, but kind of go about your life? Or how have you been thinking about COVID-19 yourself personally with your practice too?
Yeah, I personally, you know, take supplements, same stuff I've always taken, to be honest with you.
What is that? Do you mind sharing some of the main ones?
Go down the list, yeah.
Go down the list.
I take zinc, C,
Okay.
D, astragalus, like I said earlier.
Is that the one that helps with stress?
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard. Let's make sure we make a note of that.
Yeah,
I haven't heard of that.
It's a herb, and it helps with stress and cortisol levels. Just basically a way for your body, and it boosts the immune system.
Is it
And then
a pill?
You can get it in a capsule form. I'm sure you can get it in a powder form too.
Okay.
I just take it in a capsule, and then I take ashwagandha. which is another great herb that helps. Same type of thing, boosts the immune system, lowers stress, helps manage cortisol levels, balances hormones. Yeah, I was turned on to it some time ago by a friend of mine, Josh Axe, and yeah, and I've been taking it ever since. I'm a big believer in it. So
okay, both of those that you mentioned.
Yep.
Okay, now how long? I'm just curious. How long have you been taking those herbs?
I've been taking those probably for 2 years.
Okay, all right. So this was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about what you're saying about lowering stress and cortisol levels is my understanding is that stress and maybe it's high cortisol from stress can cause you to have like belly fat retention that you wouldn't otherwise have.
Absolutely.
So would it be correct in thinking then if you can take these herbs and lower some cortisol, that actually might help get rid of some belly fat?
Yeah. I mean, it's very reasonable. There was
I like the way that sounds.
There was a guy, for some people out there, they probably remember this name, named Charles Poliquin, and he's no longer around. He died a couple years back, but he was big into, he would do, and I had an opportunity to meet him. He was in town. He was doing this big study with another doctor in town from St. Thomas Hospital, and he had a 7 site, or he would do I think it was a 14 site, one or the other, depending upon how comprehensive the test needed to be, skin fold analysis. So he would do a calipers of body fat analysis, and let's just say you had like 18 at your above your iliac crest, and end up in your armpit or axillary region, you measured, let's just say it was like 26, just hypothetically. He would take that ratio, and then he came up with these correlations. So if you showed an abnormal correlation or a ratio between one body region and another, he would say, oh, you're deficient in this. Ooh. Or you're high in cortisol, or your hormones are out of whack, your progesterone and estrogen ratio is off. And then he would prescribe different herbs and supplements and exercise programs based on those findings.
Very fascinating.
It was fascinating, and the most fascinating thing of it is he did a study with a guy in town named Dr. Mark Houston. And if I had to, my best recollection is probably 10 years ago or so they did this study, and it was N was like a couple hundred, 250, 300 people, and where Houston would do the actual blood work analysis, Poliquin would do his skin site analysis, skin fold analysis, and they were almost dead on. So he was getting the same results.
He was getting the same results from doing body composition test as someone doing blood testing?
Exactly.
Ooh. So his little program's working. Now, this is someone, I think I missed, you said you met this person, or he came through town at one point?
Yeah, he came through town, and just different connections. I was able to have dinner with the two of them, and while they were doing this study.
I see. Is he still practicing somewhere?
Houston he's in town. In Nashville, but Poliquin, he passed away from some heart trouble.
I see. And Poliquin was the guy who was doing the body composition.
Yeah.
So if I dumb that down, it's like he would measure one part, like let's say your chest or your body mass index or something like around your chest area, and then he'd also do it in your belly, and he would just know like for this region of your body, this is how your belly should be.
Yep.
And if it's out of whack, then we could look at which one is out of whack and why that might be, and then prescribe.
That's pretty accurate.
Huh. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Because there would be a certain ratio based on that person's, sort of shape, body type. So like, for example, your thigh measurement shouldn't be more than like above your hip bone. I'm just thinking this is off the cuff, but there's certain areas of the body that should be lower than other areas, and the ratio should be, 2-to-1 instead of 3-to-1.
I see.
And then he would take that information based on thousands and thousands of people that he tested, and he just came up with this, this data. And then started making these correlates, and the next thing you know, it's pretty darn accurate.
That is really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
I heard about the cortisol and the belly fat thing on Tim Ferriss's podcast like last summer. And it was someone who had been doing, I forget who it was now, but they had been doing a lot of different things. And they went on, I think it was like a Wim Hof retreat, like the breath guy. Or he's also cold water stuff and breath holding and all that. I don't know a ton about it, but apparently it was super effective for this guy, like at the level of like stress and anxiety and everything. And he lost a lot of unwanted belly fat, and he attributes it to a lowering of his stress and anxiety. And that's just the one area where I wish, like I tried sauna last summer for like a month, and I felt like that really helped with belly fat actually. And but that's the one area if I get a back injury or something, like I just get soft there. This is one area if I could like make control and make that tight, that would be, I just go straight for the lower belly. I mean
there are many, many, many more people out there that know more about hormonal balance than I do. But what I can say with certainty is when stress levels increase and your hormones get out of balance, I think you're a sitting duck for a lot of different health maladies. There's no question. I mean, from, lower immune system, just broadly based speaking, but, more specifically autoimmune disorders, you talk about depression, all these things, all those things can arise, mood disorders, even something as minor as you got a short fuse, you get angry off the cuff, all that stuff that you think of from minor to major, all that stuff can be caused by that shift in hormonal balance. Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Jamie Arroyo, our family nurse practitioner, was on a while ago talking about that too. Stress is a big killer, actually. It is a big killer.
Back to what you take. Anything else you take?
I take a probiotic.
What do you take for that?
Every day. I have a couple. The kind I'm taking this month is Designs for Health. But I'll kind of alternate that. Yeah. Okay. And then I eat a lot of foods that contain the natural bacteria, the good bacteria for our gut.
What's that one that's very popular? Sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut.
Do you eat a lot of sauerkraut?
I eat not a lot.
Okay.
I have had sauerkraut.
Okay.
But I
not care for it. I
drink.
So much?
Yeah, it's okay. It depends if I can pair it up with something else.
A hot dog with ketchup and mustard.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick shout out. 2 summers ago, I did sausage on a campfire and then had sauerkraut and an over easy egg and ketchup and mustard, and then you just chopped it up with a fork and a knife and just ate it.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty good. Pretty dang good. But sauerkraut is, I just think of that one top of mind as like a good probiotic because it's always in our refrigerator and we eat
exactly.
a fair amount, so.
All those fermented. We do a lot of kombucha.
Do you?
I do a certain type of yogurt that I like. It's called Lava. It's like a coconut-based one.
That you make or that you're buying?
No, I buy it.
Oh, okay.
What
Lava.
else do we do?
Is that the brand or?
Yeah, that's the brand.
Okay. Kombucha, we drink a ton of that. Do you guys make your own or do you buy it?
We usually buy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good probiotic because several people recently have asked about that, and I haven't been taking a probiotic for a long time. Yeah. But I do drink a ton of kombucha, and I feel like I eat some amount of fermented foods, so that should help, right?
Yeah, I mean, the gut health is huge. When we talk about overall health and defense of your immune system and brain function, there's that gut-brain connection now that is being heavily talked about, which I think is true. And, it makes sense when you think about it, just from a common sense standpoint too. If you ever had to go to the bathroom or whatever, your brain just doesn't work as well. It just, you get kind of cloudy thought and then sometimes if you go relieve yourself, whatever.
So is that a thing? So if you're sitting on, because if you're sitting on a poop for longer than you should be, that can cloud your brain, you think?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I would say so. So people that are not regular, say people that are dealing with constipation issues, or I think absolutely. And then you're just festering stuff too in your system. You develop some syndromes like leaky gut syndrome. Someone goes down that path, there's no way their focus, their attention, their memory, their ability to think quickly, make quick decisions, all that stuff declines quickly.
And probiotics help with all of that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. It restores gut health and is a defense mechanism too, to kind of, to get rid of, to help balance out, the bad bacteria that we're exposed to every day. So.
Okay. Anything else you're taking on a daily basis?
Let's see. I take vitamin C, and magnesium. I take magnesium.
Okay. My wife does take that.
Yeah.
I am not right now. I've also heard you can get a good amount of magnesium from float tanks.
With the salt?
Yeah, with the salt in that water.
I guess if it's transdermal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I take, I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know how much of that can, kind of penetrate the barrier and stuff like that. But what was the one I just thought of that I take? Omega-3 fish oil. So I take about 5 grams of fish oil every day, which sounds like a lot, and I mean it is, I guess, relatively speaking, but just considering how active I am, and it helps me feel good. It's good for your cardiovascular system. It's good for your joints. I like it. So
is that the same thing as cod liver oil?
Yeah, you're going to get omega-3 fatty acids from cod liver oil too.
Okay.
There's a difference in the source. A lot of those omega-3s come from cod or mackerel or salmon. It just depends on where these manufacturers are getting their source from.
Okay.
And then if I have a meal, like if I go home tonight and, my wife and I are going to eat salmon, then I'm probably not going to take omega-3s with my dinner.
I see.
But if it's not a fatty fish or a food that's high and rich in omega-3s, then I'm going to supplement with them.
I see. So. Do you eat breakfast?
I do.
You do? Okay. So yes, you could take, I don't eat breakfast. And what I found was I tried to, all these vitamins and supplements, a lot of times they're saying on there to eat with the meal. And it was just easier for me to take them in the morning because I wouldn't forget, and who knows where I'm going to be by the end of the day and all this. But I started to kind of feel like I would take them all, and then about 30 minutes later, I'd feel pretty nauseous for about 5 or 10 minutes. I mean, it would pass relatively quickly. And so I switched to taking all of it at night with the meal, and that totally took care of it.
Yeah. Some of those are fat soluble. Those are probably those might be the ones that caused a little bit of that nauseous.
Okay.
So they would be more assimilated and digestible with food.
We should get you to make a list, man. If you'd be willing to make it, honestly, like I'd be pretty interested. We can listen back and get the list too, I guess. But
yeah, I'm happy to do that.
I think that'd be something people would be interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of needs different things for different reasons. But I will say there are some pillars, some common staple supplements that I think what maybe you're alluding to that I think probably suitable for most people out there. Yeah.
Well, and I'm not advocating that everyone just start taking what you're taking, but it's like the herbs you talked about, I've never heard of those. And I have gotten blood work done like multiple times over the last few years. And then we dial in kind of, all right, stop taking so much vitamin B and start taking zinc now, or whatever it was. I think that's a good way to do it, is like test your blood and see how things are and what you should be complementing more with or less with, that type of thing. So,
right.
But just from the standpoint of, I would definitely find it fascinating.
Yeah.
Kobe, can you pull up, did you have that article there that had some information on the transmissibility of, so this is from this is from USA Today. It says, from all the evidence so far, it does seem that being healthier will reduce your risk of severe outcomes, perhaps considerably, but some folk who appear very healthy can get severe COVID-19 or die from it. Being normal weight does not protect you. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not shocked to see that. I thought maybe it had something to do with the transmissibility, whether you were healthy or not. Okay, well, we just kind of jumped into let's come back around to, why don't you tell people kind of who you are, what you do, and I'd even like to hear about how you kind of got here.
Sure.
With your practice.
Yeah, so I started my practice in 2006. I was solo practitioner. I went to chiropractic school a little bit later, I guess, than most people. So I finished undergrad, then I went to grad school. Then after grad school, I worked for about 5.5, almost 6 years before I decided to go back to get, my degree in chiropractic. Mm-hmm. So by the time I started chiropractic school, I was 31. And I remember even back, I've been in practice for almost 15 years now, but I remember being in class with people that were 10 years younger than me.
Yeah.
It just wasn't, I don't know. It was one of those things. I think if you knew you were going to be a chiropractor, go into that profession, at least my experience, they've kind of figured it out earlier. So I went to school. I finished in 06, June of 06. And then I started my practice July 7th, 2006.
As a chiropractor
As
or
a chiropractor.
PT?
Yeah, chiropractor.
Chiropractor,
Yeah,
okay.
so I'm licensed as a chiropractor. And then I was on my own for about 2 years. And then I got into a little bit bigger space and I started bringing some more pieces of kind of my vision. And then, so I was in Green Hills section of town. And then in 2015, I moved to the location where you and I met.
Okay.
Which is, about 6,200 square feet. And I've got myself and 4 wonderful physical therapists. And then I've got 2 strength coaches. And then I've got an admin. Mm-hmm. Who manages the office for us. So.
Did you know going in that this was your vision all along when you took chiropractic school? Or did you go into that thinking you're going to be a chiropractor and then later sort of went down the more PT path and incorporated both?
Yeah, I think it was, incorporated things as they came along. When I entered chiropractic school, I just went in open-minded. At that time, it was interesting for me because I was out working in the sort of the healthcare profession, and I was doing some training on the side as like a personal trainer. And I just got to this point in my life, my career, where I was like, I want to do more. And then I had this itch, kind of, I would describe it, that made me think back to my college days. I played basketball in college, and I remembered being in the training room before and after practice, and I would, myself, my teammates, athletes from different sports at the college, I would see them in the training room, and everybody was getting kind of the same treatment. It was like ice, maybe some stem, tape the ankle, tape the wrist.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can remember, and that was in the early 90s. I played from 91 to 95 in college.
Okay.
And I can just remember I was thinking back then, man, there's got to be a better something else out there, like just better. Mm-hmm. And then, so anyway, after being in the workforce and stuff, I just got this, like I want to do more. Let me reinvestigate, what's out there. So spent some time with a couple different chiropractors. I was in Nashville at the time, in town, and I spent some time shadowing some PTs. And my experience was I saw a little bit broader scope within the chiropractors that I watched, meaning they did some things different. Like I saw some people that were just very old school, traditional chiropractic, short encounter with the patient, done out the door. And then I saw some other guys that were real invested in like nutrition. And then I saw a guy that was like kind of had this sports background, so he was kind of into that. And then I go and see these PTs, and they all kind of did the same thing. Now, but that was just
the PTs did.
Yeah, but now listen, that was just my experience. at that time.
Yep.
You know, I saw like 3 different people. So that was what led me to choose chiropractic. I was like, well, this chiropractic seems like there's a little bit more freedom. You got a few more options to make your own choice, what you want to do. That being said, I went into school. I was open. I was like, I'm going to go in. I'm going to see what I see. You know, be open to everything. You know, kind of that Bruce Lee thing.
Yep.
You know, be open and then let go of what you're not going to use.
Yep.
Well, my first trimester at Palmer College up in Iowa, I was still real active on a bike. I got after my basketball playing days, I got into running, then I got into competitive cycling. Well, I was still riding a lot and competing.
Competitive cycling as in like racing?
Road racing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did that for about 6 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
But you actually competed.
Yep.
Man, you still ride a lot?
Not too much on a road bike.
Okay. I never competed, but got into it for a couple years. Man, it was so fun. It was more fun than I thought it was going to be.
It served me.
It's kind of addictive a little bit.
It is. I mean, it just kind of served my competitive, juice. That gave me that juice that I needed.
Yeah.
So where I was going with that though is my first trimester, still racing, my hip started really, really bothering me to the point where I could not perform the way I wanted to perform on a bike. I just didn't have that extra gear. So being a student in chiropractic school, you like every other student on campus, you have like unlimited resources basically between student doctors and then you got your clinic doctors that are supervising the student body. And I had person after person, I probably had 6 to 8 different people look at my hip, try to adjust me, boom, boom, this way, that way, which way, and the other. And then I wasn't getting better. I was like, so then I'm in line one day at this little restaurant after a ride, and there's this woman standing in front of me in the line. Her name was Nancy. And I tell her, she says, you ride? And I said, yeah, I ride. And she was like, how's it going? It's going well. I'm just, my hips bother me. You in school at Palmer? That was kind of the thing in Davenport. A kid between 20 and 30 or whatever, a lot of people were there in school.
Is it somewhat of a small town?
Yeah, Davenport's probably, I'm trying to think, maybe 50,000 people.
Okay. And Palmer,
it's part of the
that's
Quad
kind of
Cities.
the guy who kind of invented chiropractic. His name was Palmer, right?
Rich tradition up there.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. D.D. Palmer and B.J. Palmer. I mean, this family basically like you said, invented kind of chiropractic. So Palmer was the first chiropractic institution. And so big tradition. So she says, oh, you must be at Palmer. I'm like, yeah, matter of fact, I am. So then we get into my little injury, and she was like, oh, you need to go see this guy over in Bettendorf. And Bettendorf was the other town in Iowa that made up this Quad Cities. There's 2 towns in Iowa, 2 towns in Illinois, divided by the Mississippi River. So she's like, you got to go see Kaminsky over in Bettendorf. And I was like, Kaminsky? What's he all about? She's like, well, he's a chiropractor, but he does ART. And ART was this technique called active release techniques. So I go see Kaminsky, and within 4 visits, I felt wonderful. Competing, racing, top of my game, just feeling great. So wow. I'm like, man, what did this guy do to me? And that was my first exposure into like soft tissue specific therapy to manage injuries, mostly of the repetitive nature kind, repetitive stress kind. So based on my experience with Bob Kaminsky, I said, hey, do you mind if I just come in and watch you? Just kind of do your thing. I'm in school. I'll come over after I'm done with class, whatever you allow me to do, I'm here. So he was kind enough to let me come in and watch him, and I saw what I needed to see to convince myself that, man, I need to go learn this technique. So My first trimester, I had just, as a matter of fact, my first ART course, I had just started my second trimester in school. So it's kind of an abnormal thing to do. You know, you're in school, but then you're going to do this, learn this technique that's completely outside of the curriculum, you know, on my own dime, on my own time. That's
at another school or just with Kaminsky?
No, it was ART is it's a technique. It's a company basically, and they still do. They offer courses across the country, you know, at different times during the calendar year, where you can go take these modules, whether it's spine or lower extremity or upper extremity, nerve entrapment, things like that. And so anyway, I did it, and it completely shaped my direction in school, and then of course as a professional. A big part of what I do is very soft tissue based. As a chiropractor, you know, the adjustment is kind of in my toolbox, and I'll use it when it's appropriate. But if it's not going to help, or if it's not necessary, you know, I'm not going to adjust somebody just for the sake of adjusting them. I tell patients this all the time. You know, you provide the body what it needs, and oftentimes it's good at telling you what you need. And just as a hypomobile joint, you know, a joint that's not moving very much or not enough can be problematic. A hypermobile joint, a joint that moves way too much, doesn't have stability, can be just as problematic.
And one way to go about doing that is by getting too much chiropractic care.
I mean, it's kind of a general, but I would say this: getting too many mobilizations, or in the chiropractic profession, they usually call it an adjustment, at the same joint, you know, over and over and over again, without building it with the stability that it needs from the surrounding tissue, meaning primarily muscle, you know, muscle and tendon.
That could be problematic.
It can be very problematic. You know, I see it body wide. I mean, different body regions for different reasons, but like I'll give you a common joint that usually gives people problems when it's hypermobile, when it has too much movement, and that's the SI joint, or the sacroiliac joint. Which are, you have one on the right and one on the left, and it's where your sacrum, your tailbone, makes a joint with your ilium, or what most common people would just call your hip bone. So if you can imagine your hip bone, and then you got your two hip bones, and then in between them you've got your sacrum. So that would be the SI joint.
Can you try to pull that up, Kobe?
If you're standing, and you put your hands, you know, on just below the small of your back, you'll feel two prominent bony landmarks.
Okay.
Those landmarks are what are called your PSIS, your posterior superior iliac spine. Those are part of your hip bones. So if you go just medial, just toward the midline, like a finger width, you're in the SI joint.
Okay.
Your finger is in the SI joint.
Okay. And so that's a thing that you can over mobilize easily.
Yeah, easy. And then, you know,
okay, let's see if we can point it out here.
Yeah.
Is there a good representation there? Is that any good? How about whichever one makes sense?
So that triangular, so you can see the top picture.
Yep.
The spine, you know, you can see the vertebrae and then the discs in the gray. Just below that almost like triangular looking bone. That's your sacrum.
Okay, gotcha. And it's not okay.
And then your ilium, that's an anterior view of the pelvis. So it would be a little bit more specific if you had a posterior view.
Is a posterior view just from the
back,
rear, basically?
Yeah, from the back.
Okay.
But that's where you would see where the hip bone joins that sacrum.
I didn't even know there was some middle bone in there. That's interesting. So it's like the spine comes down into it, and then it receives the hip flexors or whatever, the hip bones, and it's that middle.
Yeah, the sacrum would be is part of your spine, but as you said, it kind of sits inside the pelvis.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is a thing that can be commonly overmobilized.
Yeah, for sure. Overmobilized, and it can just be like a hypermobile joint in a lot of people's bodies. I would say there are different reasons, but a common one is if they have a hip joint where the femur or your thigh bone comes in and articulates with that hip bone that we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't work nicely, then you're going to get too much movement from typically a neighboring joint. Mm. So that next joint above would be the SI joint, or it could be L5, S1, the last lumbar vertebrae where it articulates with your tailbone. Mm-hmm. Or if you go below, a lot of times it's the knee.
I see.
The knee is supposed to be a stable joint. It's just a flexion, extension, hinge joint. But if it has to rotate, or the femur has to rotate, or whatever, too much, then that knee becomes damaged.
I see. Yeah, so, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's the body has to compensate for
that's
its
exactly
weaknesses
right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's come back around to some of that. But picking back up the story too, by the way, is so obviously to be a chiropractor, there's a license for that, right? Mm-hmm. There's also a license to be a PT, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah.
As well? Okay.
Yeah.
But this art thing that you took, did that allow you to be a PT? Like, did they license you or?
No, you can take ART and some of these other techniques while you're in school now.
Chiropractic school?
Chiropractic or PT.
I see.
I think now they've maybe even opened it up to massage therapists.
I see.
Anybody that has a license.
Okay.
So it doesn't make you a chiropractor. It doesn't make you a PT. What it essentially is another tool. To
if
add
you're
to
a
your
chiropractor
toolbox.
or if you're a PT, here's another tool. I see. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Then when did you become licensed as a PT?
As
When did you get
chiropractor.
into-
Chiropractor.
Right.
I'm only chiropractic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's you may have thought I was a PT.
Yeah, I did. I totally did.
It's a common, and I like to say it like this, Kent. A lot of people, if there's a good therapist, and this is a personal opinion, albeit, but a good therapist, you almost should be able to tell which discipline they are, and that's
why I picked that up from you.
Yeah, I mean, there should be a little bit because there's great things in both professions, and for years, like when I was in school, I would hear a lot of this stuff, kind of that political jargon, like PTs can't do this, PTs no good, chiropractors do this, and it probably comes from their camp too. But like I said earlier on in our discussion here tonight, I've got 4 PTs in my office, and they're wonderful.
Yep.
And we do things so similarly, and that's why it makes it easy for me to say, hey, you're gonna work with Sarah, or you're gonna work with Griffin, or you're gonna work with Jorge, and they can kind of say the same thing back in my direction too.
I see.
So we all speak the same speak. We all speak, we all do very similar things. We all have the same approach. Now, not everybody practices like that, but we've been lucky enough to find each other, and it works great.
Yeah. Is there certain things that only they can do as PTs that you can't legally do, or is that not really how it works?
It's not. I don't think there's anything that they do that I can't do.
Okay.
But I will say this, humbly so, they are way better at post-operative stuff. They're just more experienced in it. And it's one of those things where...
Define that, please.
So if let's say you had ACL reconstruction.
Got it.
And you said, Josh, you helped me with my back. You're the man. I want to see you.
I see.
I want you to help me with my knee just like you helped me with my back. I would say, Kent, thanks for the trust. You know, thanks for the opportunity to help you. But I'm gonna let you work with Jorge.
Gotcha.
He's gonna take much better care of you and your knee in this circumstance. They just, you know, it's one of the things. You know, I'm happy to admit that. When you know what you don't know,
right?
It's a big advantage.
Absolutely,
so,
it is. Yeah, absolutely, it is.
And they were schooled in that. They saw it. They practiced it. They've been practicing it for years. You know, I don't know what our combined years of experience is, but it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's good. I think between the 5 of us, I think we've seen most of what's out there. You know, non-pathologically speaking, when it comes to musculoskeletal issues, I would say we've probably seen most of it amongst the 5 of us. So, you know, just as there's probably some things that I've seen more than them, or I'm more comfortable working with than them in some cases, but we figure it out. Yeah, it's just great to be surrounded by such a great team.
Yeah. Congratulations on that too. That's a big deal. When did you found Resilient then?
2006,
okay.
July 7th. It was formerly just my name. It was just called it the Renkens Center, because it started off as just me, and then when I started adding some pieces, and then in January 15, as I said earlier, when I moved to the Brentwood office, much bigger, you know, footprint, I just knew that there was going to be more people. There were already more people on board, but I knew that in all likelihood, at the right time, you know, when you know, we had enough to provide the people and all that, I knew I was going to be adding more pieces.
Okay.
So I decided it was probably fair and the right thing to do to change the name, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
It's just more, you know, all encompassing. And I love the name of my business.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's really great.
Yeah, kind of, you know, 2015. I like to think it was a little before Resilient became such a, you know, kind of a buzzword. Now you hear it pretty commonplace, but back then, you know, it wasn't as common. But I've always been fond of the word, and just in general, but also just for personal reasons too. It's always meant a lot to me. So,
oh yeah,
yeah.
How do you define resilient? Like when you say, what does that mean? Like, well, I guess now I'm curious on both sides. The kind of the business side, because I remember reading a definition on your wall, and I was like, I think you even said to you, like, I just don't feel like I'm resilient. Well, based on that definition, like I had 3 bad back injuries in like 2 months. It's like, man, I just want to be resilient so I can push at CrossFit again and not keep breaking my lower back. So how would you define resilient for your business? And then it sounds like it also means something to you personally. I'm curious what both of those might be. Yeah,
for business, I think it doing what we do, I think it kind of goes to the body and providing your body, you know, with the goods from a movement capacity. And then there's other things that come up, nutrition, you know, things like that. But providing your body with the movement capacity to withstand challenges, but then unexpected events too. And what I mean by that is, say you're out playing, you know, flag football with a bunch of guys or whatever, and you make a cut, you know, can your ankle, can your knee, can your hip withstand that stress? You know, in other words, is it resilient enough to take on that load, or is it just going to break down? So that's what it means to me from a business standpoint. And just, you know, it makes me think of this thing I want to do coming up this year. And I'm probably going to start it in June, where I'm going to have once a month, I'm going to talk about a certain topic. I'm just going to open it free to the public, not just to people that come through the office, but to whoever. And maybe we can put something out like that on social media or whatever. But, you know, say resilient habits. So one month I'll talk about sleep. And it's all stuff that I'm into and I enjoy talking to people about anyway. But people can come in and learn about sleep, you know, different aspects of it, why it's important, what lack of sleep does to you, blah, blah, blah. And then the next month, maybe we do nutrition. and then the next month maybe we do, mobility.
In person?
Yeah, and all
Ooh,
those,
I love that.
And all those things will kind of add up to, hey, this is what a resilient body stands for.
Ah, you're going to record those just for your own use? I mean, you could probably utilize that.
Well, that's a good idea. I didn't really think of that.
You should definitely record it.
Yeah.
I have a like a little microphone that plugs into an iPhone, and it's just like a little lapel. And I mean, I haven't been using it in a while, but you could get something easy like that, even if you just record it onto your iPhone or something. Throw your iPhone in your pocket, stick the cord up to your shirt, and clip it on, because that's the type of stuff where if you're going to have the talks anyway, like I love that you're doing it in person, because I want to come to those. Like if you said, hey, it's a webinar, I may or may not, but in person, I'm interested.
Right.
So I'd love to come to it, but then later you could like put that out on, however. I mean, there's all kinds of options,
Well, I appreciate the suggestion.
Could be really valuable.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I just want to do it as a service.
Yeah. I love that.
And then for me personally, just, as most people in life, we encounter these obstacles, circumstances, unfortunate things that happen for different reasons for different people. And, I think of that cone, fall 7, rise 8. Like that's one of my favorite expressions, fall 7, rise 8. So every time you fall or get knocked down, you're going to rise. And that's what resilience is to me.
I see.
Just being able to you take the obstacle or take the challenge, find the way through it, grow from it, learn from it, try not to make the same mistake again. So,
yeah, that's something that everyone could use more of in their life for sure.
Yeah.
The fall 7, rise 8, where does that come from? Do you know?
I think
I've not heard of that before.
It's a Japanese cone, I believe.
Okay. Cone meaning like a phrase or a mantra?
K-O-A-N, yeah, just like a phrase.
Okay. I like it.
But I came across it, something I read at one point in time, but it stuck with me. I just think it's great. It's quick. It's easy to remember. It's good. It's a good, like you said, it's almost a mantra.
Yeah, it really is. And I think too that it's almost like in life, like it can be with your body, is if you don't have any adversity and all of a sudden you have a major adversity, it could break you. But if you can sort of like warm up to the adversity, you can develop some strengths. I mean, it works that way in your body, and I think it works that way in life too, where if you can be resilient instead of rigid, and either you're good or you're broken. Like let's be somewhere in between where life might not be good, but you're bending and not breaking, you know? That's such a strong that's such a strong lesson in life.
It is. I mean, let's face it, nobody likes to run into obstacles and stuff, but that's the stuff that builds us.
Yeah.
It's the stuff we remember. You think about the most meaningful times in your life, and oftentimes it was either getting through, an obstacle or a challenge, or it was immediately after some sort of setback. And those are the times that we remember, that were most meaningful and changed our life maybe in a different direction or introduced us to another opportunity or what have you. So,
dude, yeah, you're spot on with that, man. What I like about you mentioning that too is, I don't know if this is pride or selfishness or I don't know, but sometimes I find myself, like when you sat down, like until you said that, I just was thinking in terms of like, I've got problems in life, I've got issues, I've had adversity, but Josh, like he's probably had an easy, like he's probably got his shit figured out. You know what I mean? But when you start to talk to people, it's like everyone has had adversity. Everyone has had challenge. Everyone has had hard times. You know what I mean? Like I don't have a corner on that. Right. Everyone's dealing with something or has dealt with something at one point or another that bent them to the point where they thought they were going to break maybe and didn't, and they got through. And so, yeah. Okay, I want to circle back around to chiropractic care, but first, just a note on your practice, which is that you do have a lot going on, because you could technically do chiropractic care there. You can obviously do PT there, but you guys also do personal training.
Yep.
Is that really it, or do you have some other things going on there?
Well, on the training side, we offer personal training, semi-private training, and then we have a couple group classes too each day. Mm-hmm. And then on the PT side, we see, as I mentioned earlier, post-operative cases. People that are just coming off surgery and need rehab, and then they see a same kind of similar population as myself too. People dealing with acute like injuries, but then people dealing with chronic stuff too. Where they've been dealing with back pain for 5 years, and they just either been dealing with it and they finally reached a point of, hey, I got to do something about this, or people that have been other places, and they've tried, everything under the sun, and then they had landed our place finally. So it's part of what makes it all fun, though. Mm-hmm. But to your question, that's what we offer. And I just think we offer a cool environment too.
Yeah, you do. That's a great spot.
It's one of the things I definitely am aware of. Part of the environment that's created. It's not, when you walk into Resilient, it doesn't necessarily feel like a very traditional clinic.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's usually music playing.
Yep.
You're going to be welcomed, with a smile and all that great stuff, all the time. When people walk in, they're taken care of. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, no, it's a great vibe in there, and I liked the layout. That thought occurred to me. Like, I noticed the layout. The layout was good, and I also noticed the like the murals on that one wall. It's really cool.
Thank you.
I mean, that is. Did you have to pay a crap ton of money for that, or because I was
it's
like,
all relative.
Do some
I mean, it's one of those, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The girl, I mean, just shout out to her. She is from Murfreesboro, Tara. I think she's at like Terra Murals. But she did it for us, and it took her 8 days to do that.
Wow.
Because that wall, I don't know what the exact dimensions are, but wow. I mean, it's a lot.
It's a big wall.
It's a big wall.
Yeah. It was very cool. But I also noticed the music. Like, I mean, it didn't surprise me that there's music going on in there, but it's not a gym, but it sort of is, but it's really not. And so you wouldn't have had to have like the music that was playing there, but it was like uplifting and positive and like movement oriented, like momentum. Yeah, it's good. You have a great vibe in there.
Thank you.
Chiropractic care. You mentioned something when I was seeing you, which is that there is, I have very little knowledge here, but I have experience. Let's put it that way. I have experienced two types of chiropractors. One, when you're busted, come see me. And two, we have a program here, and the program is 3 months, and we start with 3 adjustments a week, and then 2 adjustments a week, and then 1 a week, and then 1 every other week, and then twice a month, and then it's twice a month forever, or whatever, You mentioned some thoughts that maybe that's not always the best fit for everyone going through a program like that. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let me put it like this. When I started my practice, I thought to myself, well, what would I want as a consumer? And I wouldn't, if I walked into a place and they just, no matter what, like to every single person that walked through that place, they said the same thing. Hey, you're going to come 3 times a week for 4 weeks, twice a week for 2 weeks, once a week for 4 weeks, that sort of thing. I would be like, it's not my place. Mm-hmm. Like, and why can't I get better, maybe quicker? Mm-hmm. Maybe, I don't know what that sounds like, but it's just me. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to be able to get back to doing what I love to do, as quickly as I can, of course, in a safe and responsible manner. And then I also want to be given the goods. Like with you and me, our experience together, you came to see me 2 times, and three times, and I gave you some things to do. Mm-hmm. Like even that first visit when you were real acute, it was hard for you to move a little bit and all that kind of stuff. But there are still things that you can give that person and empower them with the tools and the know-how to help themselves. So, everybody, there's something out there for everybody, mm-hmm. and I'm not poo-pooing on any any clinics or anything like that, because there are lots of people that practice differently than me that probably serve a ton of people in a great way. But, you know, my goal is when I see somebody, I'm going to consider who the individual is, you know, what drives them, what their goals are, of course, what they have going on, what the condition is, how acute it is. And then that kind of dictates what happens. So, I mean, I've had encounters, believe it or not, over the years where someone comes to see me and they walk in and they've just like, man, I woke up, I've got this, you know, this thing in my neck. You know, I got this, people call it different things, you know, pinched nerves. I got a crink in my neck.
Yeah, I was going to say
crook in my neck, crick in my neck. And, you know, those things, I mean, sometimes those people, okay, I'll be like, all right, let's do it. Let's get to it. Let's see what's involved. And I do a little bit of work, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't entail an adjustment of some kind, whatever. And then I'm like, hey, I think you're going to be good. Like, give this 2, 3, 4 days. And if you feel good, just come back when you need me again.
Yeah.
Or another example might be someone comes in and they just got a hot low back, or they've got, you know, a knee, like a tendonitis issue, a tendinosis issue in their knee. You know, in that case, I'm likely to say, hey, let's do our thing. And then at the end of the visit, I might say, Kent, I think it's probably the best if you come back and see me, you know, 3 more times. This is just a hypothetical, but 3 more times within the next 2 weeks. You know, look at your schedule. We'll look at my schedule, or you can talk to Renee, whatever, at the front desk, and just see if you can get yourself in here a couple more times in the next 2 weeks. So it all depends on that. Now, with the people that come in just having come off surgery, that's a different story, obviously.
Yes.
You know, they're going to be a little bit more, they're going to have to come more regularly for a certain period of time, and the PTs are great at knowing what that needs to look like.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always just, it's a case-by-case thing, and that's the way people should be, I think, that's the way they should be treated and served, with their best interest in mind.
Yep.
So,
do you get adjusted by a chiropractor on a routine basis?
No, I don't. I mean, I'd like to think I'm pretty aware of my body, and but I do get worked on. Not as much as I would like.
Okay. Now you get worked on if like you're sore in a particular area, or
my team schedule. We just, you know, the opportunities aren't as plentiful as you would think.
Yeah.
Just because we're busy.
Sure.
But
it makes sense. When I mean, it's like,
and then
the painter's house is the one that always needs the work, right? Like he's painting everyone's house, but it's, you know,
that's exactly right.
But are you getting worked on when you're sore in a particular area, or you're feeling pain, or you want to be more mobile, or what would cause you to get worked on?
Yeah. Like if I feel, you know, tightness, or say a particular symptom, or if I know something's not moving right, like if I notice like I can't turn my head as far to the left for some reason, then I go to one of my PTs, one of my teammates, and I'm like, hey, can you do this for me? Or, hey, can you look at me? I need an objective opinion. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's difficult to be objective on yourself.
Yeah.
You got something going on, and you're just like, you know, we all kind of have this little bias thing, and I've done that before plenty of times. Hey, I need you to tell me what's going on. Treat me like a patient, and tell me what's going on. So,
okay, so help me to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah,
I mean, I've heard. My understanding is Joe Rogan is not a big fan of chiropractic care, and I think he's had at least one person on that this person like wrote a book how that chiropractic care is a quack, basically. And I know that chiropractors deal with this from time to time. I go to Major Family Chiropractic in Green Hills, Michael and Cassidy Major, and they're awesome. And it is tailored to what they need. Like they're doing x-rays a lot, and they understand where your spine's at and all of this. And they do a really great job. Michael was on the podcast last summer, and that was a great episode too. People can check that out. But my understanding is they're of kind of the philosophy, which is that come in, get x-rayed, see where your spine's at, and then it's going to take some time to train the spine, the neck and the spine and everything, how it should be. Like, I think there's a camp of chiropractic care out there that would kind of fall into this thought process, which is, well, I can adjust you once, that's fine. It might relieve some pain or get rid of the crick in your neck or whatever it is, but there's a bigger issue going on, and you want your spine to have the correct curvature in your neck and back and lower back for optimal functionality. And so to get it sort of trained where it should be, you know, you can't do that if you're just coming in and getting adjusted once a month. So if you come in and get adjusted a couple of times a week out of the gate, maybe kind of front load it and kind of get this thing, you know, into where it should be. And then you can lower the treatments going forward, and it kind of, I guess, would stay in place more. So is that a thing? Is there a place for that? Is it, or how should we think about that? Because you're saying,
I'm kind of saying the opposite.
You're kind of saying the opposite.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm hearing some people say that chiropractic care is a complete quack, which I personally, I don't see the logic in that. Because if my car tires are out of alignment, or my axle is shifted a little bit on my car, like, that's going to wear those tires raw in a hurry. You know what I mean? Like, so I could see the reasoning for, I could see the argument for your neck and spine and back and so forth should be in good alignment for your body to function properly and your nerves to not be pinched. And like, I can see that argument. So I don't think I completely understand the thought process that says chiropractic care doesn't have a place at all. That seems a little bit illogical to me. But then beyond that, then I guess I'm just trying to root through and shuffle through the different data points to figure out kind of what is a good practice for the common person who doesn't necessarily have a particular problem, but wants to function at an optimal level.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I'll address the first one about the chiropractic being a quack. You know, I think there are quacks, if you want to use that term, in just about every profession. Like, I think of a quack as somebody who just doesn't do their job well, or is incompetent or whatever, or someone who's just not serving people, you know, morally, or, you know, the way they should be. So, but I mean, there are, you know, any profession out there, you're going to find people like that, right? So I don't think the people that are proposing these plans are necessarily quacks. I think ultimately it depends on your definition of what a chiropractor is. And that's where I don't fit the traditional mold, as you know, for reasons that we just talked about before. You're not going to come in and get this like customary uniform treatment plan from me. It always depends on who it is, what the case is. But you know, to the point about the body being in alignment and things like that, yeah, I mean, I think to your point, Kent, there's some truth to that. You know, systems and muscular system, you know, all the systems in the body are going to work better when there's harmony. But I would say this, like, let's propose this scenario. Someone walks into the office and they are, let's just say 65 years old. Okay. And they present with a, I'll give you two examples. So let's say they come in and they've got a leg length discrepancy. Okay. And through history, you find out that they've had this sort of apparent leg length discrepancy, whether it be functional or anatomical, it doesn't matter in this case. And they say, oh, I've had, you know, someone told me this when I was 25 years old. So they've been walking around functioning for 40 years with this leg length discrepancy. For me to say, hey, I'm going to make your spine and your pelvis look like this, and I'm going to make it function this way, like there's only one way, I think sometimes you're opening up another can of worms by doing that. So I like to take the person for who they are, and what they have going, and then kind of mold, you know, their treatment for what they might need.
As opposed to saying, well, that's not good. Let's make your legs the exact same length and we'll do whatever we got to do to force that to happen in your body.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you, like, here's an example. What if somebody has a lateral curvature in their spine, which is very common? You know, the term scoliosis may come to mind for you. Well,
when you say lateral curvature, you're looking at someone from the rear.
From the rear.
The spine moving right and left.
That is right.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly right. So if someone has a lateral curvature one way or the other, whether it be, you know, let's say something small, like less than 10 degrees, which is very commonplace, or someone has something more significant, like something clinically significant would be greater than like 37 degrees. They're going to have a hip that's higher than the other hip, or, you know, in layman's terms, they're going to have an ilium that sits higher than the other ilium. They're going to have a length discrepancy, probably, that sort of thing. So, you know, you can't just force something to happen. Or say someone comes in and, not to make this sound more complicated than it needs to be, but say someone comes in and they have another genetic sort of abnormality, for lack of a better term. But someone comes in and they have an anteverted hip, you know, femur on their right side. You have to take that into consideration. Mm-hmm. It's just like when you watch someone move, you know, say someone has the socket of their hip, like an acetabulum, which is the kind of the fancy word for that, is shallow, and then you got someone that has a deep acetabulum. Those two people are going to squat. It's going to look very, very different. So there's so much at play that you have to consider. Yep. And then at the end of the day too, it comes down to what does this person want to do? Mm-hmm. You know, are they in their, you know, sort of middle aged and they just want to be able to play with their kids on the weekend, or, you know, are they someone who wants to compete? And that kind of dictates how far you might go with somebody too. Mm-hmm. You know.
Do you recommend, that makes sense, by the way, thanks for sharing that. Do you recommend for the average, you know, not a professional athlete, but like someone from myself goes to the CrossFit gym 5 days a week, someone like that who wants to be healthy, feel healthy, be active, have energy, feel good, you know, look good, those types of things. Not a pro athlete or anything like that. Do you recommend that person get adjusted on a routine basis, or no? It doesn't sound like you do. So,
well, I would say this: for someone as active as you know, 5 days a week, CrossFit, which puts demands on your body. I mean, there's compliments to you for being able to do it with that sort of frequency. And I would recommend you find someone competent in how the body should function and what can be done to restore function when it starts to break down. Whether that be a physical therapist, a chiropractor, maybe for somebody it's a massage therapist. Heck, I know a couple great ATCs out there, athletic trainer certified people that, you know, have a great toolbox of things. You know, so it's just kind of finding that person, or maybe for some people it's a team of people. Okay. You know, some people might have a chiropractor and a massage therapist and a nutritionist. I'm just trying to think of different examples, but I think for someone that's active and wants to push their body, I think it's a good idea to have somebody that you can go to on a somewhat regular basis. You know, and most of us are pretty good. I think healthier people are pretty more in tune with their body. You know, they kind of can hear the signals that our bodies are sending, and then they heed those signals. So, you know, when you feel you've been training hard for 3 weeks and you're like, man, I really need to go see Josh, or I need to go, you know, to my chiropractor in Green Hills, whatever it might be, or I need to find a good massage therapist, whatever it might be, something to give your body that ability to recover. Yeah. You know, whether it be on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, you know, everybody kind of finds the right right dose for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, you mentioned a massage therapist a couple of times. This has come up in other contexts too, and I just don't know much about this whole camp. Like, I will go to get a massage, dude, twice a day. It's always been, for me, it's always been in the category of like, what do you call it? Like luxury or
relaxation,
like
stress reduction.
Yeah, you're just, and it does cost money, so I don't get that many massages. But it sounds like what you're talking about is actually like, no, this is not like a day at the spa to reward yourself, but like there's an actual physical benefit, just like PT or chiropractic care. How would that? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think
like a deep tissue massage or something, and it kind of unlocks your body, and
probably deeper pressure in most cases. But I think just finding somebody that is competent and skilled in their craft. There's many ways to kind of give the body the goods that it needs to heal and get better. It just depends. Like we talked about, sometimes you need a joint maneuvered. Sometimes it just needs some soft tissue work. And sometimes people just need, like you said, some people might go into a spa or type setting because they just need to unwind and let go. They drink a glass of wine and walk into a massage.
Yeah. It's never a bad day for that.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying at the end of the day is, just finding someone that is skilled and knows the body well, and can bring different tools to the table. If you go and someone just kind of does the same thing over and over for everybody, I might think, hey, maybe you go check someone else out.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, lower back pain. I wanted to make sure to hit this because I saw you for it, and it really helped, by the way. And I think one of the things that's continuing to help is probably two things primarily. One is the expectation that, hey, this needs to be a 2-month healing process, because I think I was really going wrong at that level. It happened 3 times in 2 months, and I could barely walk for a couple of days, and then it was pretty painful for another couple of days, and it was like kind of like a 2-week healing process. And then 2 weeks later, I'm feeling fine, must be good, and go a little heavy on a front squat or something and pop. That happened 3 times in 2 months. And so saw you, and you set the expectation that I think the 3rd time that I saw you, I was pretty much pain-free. And you said that I need to think about a 2-month kind of ramp back up to normal activity on like front squats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For me, that's May 1. So now I know, and we were doing back squats today, and I went super light, no pain. And without that knowledge, I would have went way heavier. And so that was helpful. But number 2 is you gave me some stretches to do, and I've been doing them every day, by the way.
Good.
All 3 of them too. And I feel like they're helping. So, but anyhow, as working through that, like the one morning I came in here, and we have a group of dads that gets together once a month, and it was early. It's like 7 a.m. and I could barely walk, could barely get up. And like 2 of the guys were like, dude, I've had that too, like multiple times. And the one guy showed me some stretches and stuff. Anyhow, where I'm going with this is it seems like lower back pain is very common for at least people over 30. So can you speak to that a little bit, and what might be some advice that you could give through the podcast for people listening to this that may have had lower back pain or struggle with lower back pain? What are some things they could be doing to alleviate that or strengthen their back, or not to be dealing with lower back pain so much?
Yeah, I'm sure. First of all, I'm glad to hear you're doing better. And the 2-month thing, that was not, it wasn't like just some generic sort of timeline that I would give. It was specific, because my thought was, one of the reasons you ended up coming to see me, as you stated for the audience out there, is you had suffered the same sort of injury 3 times over a short period of time. And I felt like, okay, we were dealing with an injury that involved ligamentous sprain, and we were dealing with an injury that probably involved your disc to some magnitude. And then subsequent to that, kind of underlying that, you had some muscular tone issues, like certain things were sort of in spasm, things like that. So my thought was, hey, this stuff, you can get out of pain, but you're still not going to be able to function at the level that you want to function at in a competitive, a CrossFit environment. You're putting loads on your body that said tissues, ligament, disc, just is not quite prepared for. And if you recall what I did, another thing I did advise you to do was to certainly keep moving. Like I wanted you to keep exercising. I wanted you to keep training, but I wanted you to take the necessary, regress in the right ways so that you were, like you said, giving those tissues a chance to heal before you exposed them again to the loads. If someone came in and said, hey, I got elbow pain, I got tennis elbow, and I treated their elbow, got them out of pain, and they're like, hey, I'm just going to play tennis like once every other week. You think that's okay? I'd be like, yeah. But if they said, hey, I'm competitive, I play 3 times a week in, Nolta, then I'd be like, hey, then we need to curtail your activity.
I see.
And kind of design it around that.
Yep.
But back pain, yeah, it's a biggie. I mean, statistically, we were talking a little bit about this earlier before we started. 85%, I think, of Americans are going to suffer from back pain or have suffered from back pain of some significant, magnitude in their lifetime. So it's nothing that's going to go away fast, but it's very back pain comes about for different reasons for different people, and that's part of the art of being a clinician, is figuring out, hey, what are the perturbing factors here? What can this person? First of all, what are the things that we can eliminate that are contributing to the pain, or at least minimize exposure to in a significant way? And then what does this person need? Like, what do they not do well? Do they not hinge at the hip? Is their ankle range of motion deficient? I'm just thinking of different things are their hips mobile? Like, do they have mobility? Does their thoracic spine move? That portion of the spine between the shoulder blades? Or is it just are they stuck in that hunch, kyphotic, flexed over a keyboard desk position, and they can't get out of it? There's so many different things that contribute to the back, and can just indirectly affect the back in bad, harmful or painful ways that you just have to assess and kind of get an idea of the whole picture. Yeah. And then give the people the tools that they need.
Yeah. So there's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach to lower back injuries. Is there some broad stroke kind of pieces of advice you could give people, though, to prevent lower back injury, or if they're dealing with some pain, what they could maybe do to alleviate? Like, is there some kind of general principles that would apply?
Yeah. I would say generally, I think movement is great. I think, the more people move, the better, generally speaking. I think the less people sit, that's a biggie. And, for someone that has to sit 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, that's not good. And most people probably know that's not good. But it's one of the things that they're going to have to definitely combat and do more things to reverse the effects of sitting. The compression, the posture, that sort of thing. I think, saying that word posture, of course, that's a biggie for back pain. And then I think mobility, and when it comes to, when you talk about movement, a lot of times you hear terms like mobility and stability and strength. And I think mobility is big. A lot of people get less mobile as they progress, through the years of their life. And I think that's where I generally look first in most cases, not all, but most cases, look to that first. And then when they possess the necessary mobility, then you build strength and you build stability on
Yep.
top of that, and then strength, of course, on top of that. Stability is kind of, it's inherent with strength a little bit, but I mean, you'd be amazed. And this goes back to what my practice is, or how it's structured, like with the 2 strength coaches and stuff like that there. I believe that strength trumps many things. People, quite frankly, are weaker than they should be, weaker than they need to be. A lot of times you take someone with low back pain that they've been dealing with, for whatever, I don't know, anywhere from a short period of time acute to a long period of time, a chronic sufferer of low back pain. And if you can get them moving just a little bit more efficiently, get their hips moving, teach them how to hinge properly at the hip, teach them how to brace and stabilize their spine properly with the muscular system, teach them how to breathe, just some basic things. And then you get them strong, back pain goes away. It has amazed me time and time again, year after year, when you take somebody and you just teach them how to get, and that doesn't mean they need to come in, turn into some, house. Right. They don't need to go to the gym and be able to squat and deadlift and bench and do all this stuff like off the charts. That's not what I'm saying. If you can just get them stronger, it's amazing how much that can help that pain.
I believe that. Do you think that's a byproduct or a result of our industrialized or technologically-ized society? Like, you could now go through life basically sitting on your butt the whole time.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do that when we were hunter-gatherers. Like, you had to get up and leave and go out and walk and run and lift stuff. And, all of these types of things where you don't actually have to do that anymore, or a large portion of our population doesn't have to do that anymore. You can actually just sort of get through life by sitting and walking wherever you need to go and then sitting some more. And is that where all this comes? Like this weakness that's sort of inherent? I mean, this is not going to sound like a very bright future for society here. No, I mean, unless we realize how dangerous it can be to our health.
Yeah. I mean, you just said it perfectly. And I mean, we could sit here and probably talk for days about the negative implications of technology. So I'm right with you. I'm not a fan.
You're not a fan of technology?
No, I shouldn't say that. What I'm not a fan of. I mean, I'm not a fan of someone who has to have their phone in their hand every minute of every day, and who can't go 10 minutes without looking at their phone. I'm not a fan of that at all.
No, I'm
think
with you on that.
I think it's a problem with adults. I certainly think it's here's another discussion. I think it's a problem with our kids.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And Xbox, throw that in there.
Yeah.
I can sit there, like I never... Yeah. I'm sensitive to the fact that I didn't play video games as a kid, and I know that's a thing, and my boys have them, but our Xbox is right there under the desk right now because it was freaking causing problems. So we just got out of the house.
Yeah.
But it's also unfortunate because I feel like for whatever reason now society's at a place where it is normal to go about your job and your life and eat a sad diet, standard American diet, and hang out with your friends, have some social life. Maybe you go to church, maybe you don't, but you're working an office job, and maybe you go to the gym sometimes or go on a walk sometimes to feel good, but that's about it. And then it's almost like these other people, then it's almost like they make fun of the people that do go to a gym every day. It's like, well, that's hardcore, or why are they doing, that's a lot of time spent on your body, or, it's like, well, when you think about how society was for such a long period of time, those people in those periods of time were more active than I am, going to the gym just once a day for 1 hour, for crying out loud. That's all I'm doing. Like, this is not very exceptional here. I'm just moving for once a day for 1 hour, relatively decently, and warming up and everything. But I'm still not moving around like for years humans would move around.
Right.
And this is now the exception. Like, this is where we're at now. Like, it's the select few that are spending all this time moving their bodies and lifting weights. Why is that? I mean, this is not good. This should not be the select few. This should be normal. Like I think it's great that we have, I mean, I'm with you on the phone thing, but I like some of the technological advances that we have. I think it's awesome that they make cars now that can drive themselves. Like, let's go. I'm all about that. It's fun and it's safer and it's more efficient and a whole lot of reasons. But let's just keep in mind that as society progresses and we get all these new technologies, we become more efficient, and we can have a work week now that's 30 hours or 40 hours instead of 70. You know, I mean, those are great things. Yeah. But let's not forget, like macro, like big picture. This is a different society than there was 1,000 years ago or a couple thousand years ago. I mean, back then you were active. That's what you were. And now you don't have to be active. So let's be intentional about being active. Right. And it's just that it just seems like that's now kind of weird. Yeah. But you kind of need to, if you're going to be a healthy and live a good, full, healthy human existence, you got to be active. Like that's it, man. I mean, you got to be active and you got to put good food in your mouth. Yeah, I mean, it's that simple. You said it all. I mean, if sitting around is, you know, kind of the normal, I certainly want to be abnormal. Exactly. Yeah. So, but I don't have much to add to what you said. I mean, yeah, that's just not good. Yeah. And you know, we're fortunate to have all the stuff that we have as far as the advancements and stuff. But you said the word, and I think it's absolutely spot on, is intentional. We need to take responsibility for our health, and we need to be intentional about it. And that's the... Agreed. You know. Dry needling. Can you explain that science? I don't understand it. I do have some amount of pride in the fact that the first time you stuck a dry needle into my lower back, one of the 3 or 4, I bent it. My back muscle bent the dry needle. Yeah. And I'm a little bit proud about that. Yeah. Yeah. But that means the muscle was pretty tight. It was it was on spasm, and then, so we figured that out quickly. But I don't understand the science. Can you talk about what is going on when you dry needle my lower back and you hooked it up to the battery and shocked it? Yeah. Or whatever. You know, dry needling, I don't know for sure when it started, but I've been doing it since 2014. That was the first year that the state of Tennessee made it legal for chiropractors to do it. So I've been doing it since then, and I find it to be an extremely useful tool for all different types of conditions and all different areas of the body. What I would say the mechanism is, so it is not, and this I guess needs to be clear, it is not traditional acupuncture. It is in no way the same thing as traditional Chinese acupuncture. Can you explain those differences? Because I was curious about that. Yeah, we use the same needles, but whereas traditional Chinese TCM is, it's very, so they call them meridians, and I'm not trained in acupuncture, but this is kind of my knowledge of it. There's meridians. Those meridians are based on the organ systems. So you might have a spleen meridian, a gallbladder meridian, a liver meridian, you know, small intestine, etc. And then those meridians have different points along it, usually from head to toe. And a meridian is basically a long stretch of muscle and/or tissue. Yeah, I mean, if you look at a traditional Chinese acupuncture chart, you'll see like a line, like of some going through the body, and that's called a meridian. Yeah, and that's kind of demarcating the meridian, and then along that meridian there are certain points. Like you might have acupuncture point, 57, or like I've seen it connotated in different ways, or you might have spleen point 3. Something like that. So then the idea, though, is to put in the needle and allow the chi, which is a term for energy, to free flowly, through the body and to get through sort of that stagnant place. Whereas functional dry needling is more, I like to term it as it's just more musculoskeletally based. So there's not necessarily like a predetermined point that I might, or a certain sort of placement of the needles based on a thing, like a symptom.
It's more, okay, I know that this tissue is not moving right, or I know it's hypertonic, it's too tight, or I know you have swelling around this joint. You know, I'm going to put needles in this tissue in this way. And the goal is really to elicit what's called a local twitch response. And so there's some areas like say your trapezius muscle up by your neck, or your hamstring, or your adductor, something like that. Whereas oftentimes you can just put the needle in and you'll get the twitch. And then if you start kind of pistoning the needle a little bit, you'll get a little bit more twitch. I'll do that. And then if I don't get what I want, like sometimes around the spine especially, I'll hook the stem up to it like you and I did. And that's where I can get, send an electrical current through the needles, which is penetrating those tissues to get that twitch response or that contraction.
So you want the twitch because that means you're affecting the muscle in a way that you want to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on, again, kind of what your objective is. If you want to decrease inflammation, or if you want to help restore normal tonus to the muscle, like if it's in spasm, or if you just want to provide a signal to the body, like, hey, this area brings some goods here. You're providing a signal. The body starts infiltrating that area with blood, and of course with that comes oxygen and different proteins and different cell types that perform different functions. Yeah.
Huh.
It is a great thing. I'm so happy I know how to do it and being able to serve people with it, because
you tried anything in my back, I think maybe 2 times. It was the only experience I had with that, and I do remember the needles coming out kind of like butter.
Yeah.
But the one I know, it didn't go in like butter.
No.
It was like,
that's right. So that would be an example of decreasing that or restoring like a normal tone to the muscle. So we had put a needle into your low back, went through layers. So erector spinae, and then you got the next layer and the next layer. So it depends on the length of the needle used, but you're going to get down to like 3-4 layers of tissue, including the fascia in between. So, we put that needle in and it was stubborn, but then after several minutes of that input through the current, then when I disconnected that, like you said, the needle just came out smooth like butter. And that's a pretty good indication that the muscle relaxed.
I see.
Yeah.
How deep were they? Into my back?
Yeah, and I would say those were, I use 7. Those are like 3-inch. Just depends on the size of the person.
Well, they're 3-inch needles, but they weren't in my back 3 inches, right?
Nah, not all the way. No.
Well, how far into my back were they? My gosh, I thought they were like a 1/2 inch. How deep were these things?
Yeah. I would say probably 1.5 inches.
Into my back?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean if you were
1.5 inches.
If you were if say you were thicker, or you had more adipose, fat kind of around that midsection, I would have definitely used longer needles. But you can, again, it kind of depends on what you're trying to do, what you're going for. But you can actually put the needle in and get down to the spine.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. I figured if you hit the spine, it's a very, very bad thing. But when you say get down to the spine...
Well, yeah, that's I'm glad you say that, because it's important to clarify. You're not going to, if you know what you're doing, you're going to stay lateral to... You're not going to put something like directly into the middle of the spine.
Yes.
The vertebrae.
That's what I thought.
But the architecture of a vertebrae is shaped in such a way where you have these 2 wings, if you will, which are called transverse processes. And with the dry needle technique, you can go through the tissue and get to where the needle touches the TP, where it touches the transverse process. And that's a common thing to get it down.
Do you know if you hit that with mine?
Because it's just like any other bone.
Does it hurt?
So
when
to
it hits
speak.
the bone?
No, you can feel it though when it hits the bone. Like it's easy to put a long needle in somebody's glute, and reach the hip bone, or it's common to put a needle in someone's thigh, anterior thigh, and hit the femur.
And they can feel it when you hit it.
A little, yeah.
Okay.
You're aware of it. It depends on. That's where that kind of the art comes in.
Is it painful?
And what I mean by art is just that touch.
Okay.
Like, the needle's going in. There's knowing your anatomy. Hey, there's a bone here underneath where I'm putting this needle. I'm getting closer. And usually, I can tell exactly when I'm going to hit the bone. And that's actually a technique. They call it bone pecking. Sometimes you'll do that just to kind of stimulate, different things in the body, different reactions.
I mean,
but you're never going to take, back to your spine comment. You're not going to take a needle and you're not going to put it in the spinal cord.
Right.
That would be
good way to kill someone or paralyze them. Yeah. It makes sense. I just, I think of all the treatments that I've gotten. Like, I was excited to experience dry needling because I never have before. And there was someone else on this podcast last summer talking about it. And I was happy to experience it. But of all the things that I've experienced, like, that was one that took a higher level of trust for me. Because it's like, well, that's a needle going into your back. I didn't know it was going in 1.5 inches. That's deeper than I thought.
Sure.
But I just, assumed... I had a high level of trust in the fact that you weren't going to screw it up and I'd have to crawl out of there.
Yeah.
But it did help. It was interesting. It did help.
Yeah.
So the bone pecking thing, if you do that, are you putting in multiple needles, or just if you get one needle in and tap the bone a little bit, that kind of does the trick? Or what is bone pecking? Like how
sometimes
how violent does that get?
It doesn't get violent. It's a real subtle thing.
Okay.
But it's just a technique that you'll use sometimes it'll help decrease inflammation. It just depends, again, on the region. Like, I'll do it a lot around the elbow. I'll do it a lot in the hand. Like, if someone has a repetitive strain injury, let's say I'm going after, like, that proximal metacarpal phalangeal joint, like the big joint of your thumb. A lot of times I like to kind of peck that a little bit, and it just stimulates, different reaction in the body. So,
wow. I sincerely hope I never have to experience any of that.
The bone pecking.
I'm getting queasy just talking about it. Let's change the subject. Cryotherapy. I don't know a lot about this. I've never experienced it. What are your thoughts on cryotherapy? Is it very beneficial? Is it helpful? Is it something that it's fine if you can do it maybe if your body's tight or something, like what, or is it something that you could mix in as sort of a weekly or monthly thing that would be beneficial?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to the research, it's hard to find anything that clearly and convincingly substantiates it.
That's what I found last summer too.
As a modality.
Yeah.
But then you have a lot of testimonial and, just anecdotal evidence that it can help. So I've experienced cryotherapy, and I mean, I like it. I like to think it does help in some regard with recovery. I know one thing it does for me is it rejuvenates me. Like, if I go to a cryotherapy, there's the place in town that I think is wonderful. It's called Restore. It's on Franklin Road in Brentwood. I know the guy. He's a great guy. He runs really kind, generous family, all that good stuff. I think he's opening a place in Green Hills soon.
I picked up a flyer of theirs at your office.
Yeah. So Vinny's a great guy. He really is. And I know when I experience it, that's what I get from it. I just feel like rejuvenated. You're in that booth and you come out of there and it's cold, and so I mean, for me, yeah. I mean, I there's some good to it. I like the cold.
I mean, technically, cryotherapy is just putting your body in cold Like it could be an ice bath. It could technically be considered cryotherapy or not so much.
Yeah.
Loosely?
Yeah, loosely.
Okay.
I think the cryotherapy, like the service where you go in and you get this whole body cryo where they use the nitrogen gas and all that stuff. It's a much quicker process. You're in there for 2 or 3 minutes and you're out. Whereas an ice bath, you're typically in there longer. I think there's it's cool. I mean, the science you mentioned Wim Hof earlier. I mean, that dude's fascinating.
Yeah, he's a freak of nature.
For me personally, I begin every day. I have kind of my morning routine, but part of my morning routine is a cold shower. And it's just, I like to take a cold shower before I eat breakfast. And then after I eat breakfast, I head off to my office.
It is, okay, how long and how cold?
I spend at least 3 minutes now. When I first started, I would do like 30 seconds or a minute. Now I like to sit in there for about 3 minutes and just as cold as I can get it. Obviously, in the colder months of the year, it's a little bit colder than it is in the summer months. But
you put it on cold either way?
I put it on cold in the morning. Sometimes I'll do it at night too, but oftentimes I'll just take a warm shower at night because, like I said, if I do a cold, oftentimes it just kind of it gets my juices flowing. Gives me energy.
Yeah, I've heard too, taking a cold shower can make your skin stay basically not tighter longer, like as you get older. Like it doesn't, your skin doesn't get loose and wrinkly as easy.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that people report. I know, like Wim Hof. The fascinating thing and the concept that he talks about is this concept of hormetic stress. Like he says that. And the cool thing is there's a lot of figures now in the scientific community that are saying, wow, this guy's onto something. Like we need to pay more attention to him. Because he has talked about for years now how our bodies, our nervous system has become this concept of homeostasis. It's become so, with the luxuries of technology, you got the thermostat, set it for 70 degrees or 72, whatever. Temperature goes up a little bit, boom, thermostat turns on, you get cool. And our bodies are never exposed to these things that kind of take you to the limit.
That's true.
So cold is one way. Of course, like a sauna, it would be the opposite way, to expose yourself to hot temperatures. But basically, making your nervous system adapt. So when you're when you jump into cold water, or you get into the cryo booth, or what have you, you walk outside, it forces, you get this capillary, this vasoconstriction effect, and Wim Hof would tell you, hey, that's good for your body. You're making it work. You're making it adapt. You're building up your immune system by exposing it to these different elements and making it figure things out a little bit, so to speak.
It's just interesting because that's not what we were taught, or that wasn't the common knowledge. Like I remember, going outside as a kid, if it's cold and mom being like, get your jacket on, you're going to get sick. Yeah. And where she learned that, I don't know, but that was the common, everyone knew that, right? Like you're going to get sick if you go outside in the snow.
That's right.
Without a jacket on. And even now recently, because my wife has been the one that's kind of showing me that this is not necessarily the case. And like even as recent as this winter, kids wanted to go out and jump, and it was kind of cold, and I think it might have been even snowing a little bit. And I was like, well, you guys got to get your jackets on. You're going to get sick. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Are they, though? Because she's like, no, let them go. Yeah. They're fine. If they get cold enough, they'll come back in. So apparently you don't necessarily get sick when you get a little chilly outside. Like that might not be what makes you sick.
Right. I think kind of back to our comments earlier about COVID and other viruses and pathogens that we're exposed to. We're exposed to hundreds of different viruses and pathogens on a daily basis. Yeah. But I think your point goes back to the host. Like us as individuals, what are we providing fertile ground for these invaders to come and,
Yes.
make themselves known, or are we giving our body the goods and exposing it to different things?
Yes.
That then involve in, this is cool how our conversation is coming full circle. All those exposures and things make our bodies more resilient.
Yes.
To
True.
those intruders.
Yes, 100%. And this is one thing that Michael Major was saying last time on the podcast was germ theory versus the terrain theory. And the germ theory being like if you have a pile of trash and you're spraying Clorox all over it or whatever, like you're trying to sanitize the junk pile. Well, instead of doing, and rats will go for a little bit. If you spray enough of Clorox on a junk pile, all the rats will leave. But what happens? The rats will come back. Well, how about if you had this nice, healthy, beautiful kind of terrain where there's fields and mountains and trees and the deer are eating in the meadow and it's just a clean terrain? You don't have rats infesting that place.
Right.
It's the germ theory versus terrain theory. It makes total sense.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things that was frustrating is just seeing everyone's reaction to COVID-19. I mean, let's be honest. The reaction was the germ theory. That was 100% of the reaction. What can we spray? What can we mask up? What can we stay away from?
Yeah.
What can we not do? God forbid we got to go outdoors, and it's like, oh man. Well, there is a time for that, by the way. Like, and I'll say early on in COVID-19, it looked like that might be a good thing to do based on what it looked like it could turn into. But it was only a few weeks or a couple of months we realized, oh, nope, it's not what we thought to begin with. Thank God.
Yeah.
And so at that point, though, it was like a couple months in is where I thought the sentiment could have turned more towards the terrain theory. It just hasn't yet. And now, hey, real quick, though, and I'll let you go. Morning routine. How long are you awake? I want to hear a little bit about your morning routine if you're okay sharing it. But first, how long are you awake before you take that cold shower? Because if I would wake up, say at 6 a.m. and jump in a cold shower, I would be angry. Like like maybe I don't have much fortitude or something, but it would just piss me off so bad. How do you handle that? How long are you awake before you take that cold shower?
I'm awake for about an hour.
Okay. Yeah. So you're not just waking up and jumping in the shower.
Right.
Okay. What else are you doing as part of your morning routine?
Yeah. So my morning routine, I like to get up. I do what I need to do, brush my teeth and that sort of thing. And then I read something every day. And it could be a book that I'm reading. It could be a daily devotional type thing. Sometimes it's both. Like I've been into this this book. This is actually year 3, I think, for me. It's called The Daily Stoic. And it was written by a guy named Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
And anyway,
Ryan Holiday.
He has a book. You know him.
Or not as a friend. I'm sorry, but I like Ryan Holiday.
I think
I've read some of his books.
Yeah,
I haven't read that one though.
I think he's a really good author.
He is.
But anyway, the Daily Stoic. Check it out. It's basically 365 days, and it starts with a quote by a Stoic figure, philosopher, or a paragraph maybe, and then it has his commentary. Like, hey, these are the things, think about this today, or how does this apply to your life, whatever. It takes me literally, 60 seconds to read. And then what I do is I'll meditate on that a little bit. You just kind of think, okay, how can I apply this to my day? How can I apply it to my life? Like, hey, this resonates with me. I just encountered this 3 days ago. How cool is this? That sort of thing. And then what I like to do is I have kind of this gratitude just session for myself. I'll say all the things that come to mind that I have gratitude for. So for some days it might be my physical health, or my wife, or my kids, my family, my friends, my business, just whatever kind of comes to mind. The sunshine out on a beautiful morning, whatever. So that's kind of my step 2 after I've read. And then step 3, I usually meditate for, it could be as little as 5 minutes. It could be as many as 15 minutes. I don't go into like these long sessions, but I usually give myself at least 5 minutes every morning where I just find a quiet place. If it's warm outside, I'll go outside. And I don't even necessarily have to sit. like, you know, in the pose, like the lotus position. No, I mean, sometimes I'll lay on my back, sometimes I'll stand, sometimes I'll walk. But I'm focused on my breath and just kind of find that space. And I just love the way to start my day that way. And then after I do that, then I move a little bit. And for years, I mean, decades, really, Kent, I was I mean, it started in high school. I remember basketball was a big part of my life, and I would get up early before class started in high school. I'd go to the gym. You know, the local Y or coach would let me in the gym, whatever. And I would work out and do what I needed to do. And then in college, that was kind of a requirement. You know, we were required to do stuff in the morning, whether it was conditioning or practice, so forth. Get out of school, continue to be an early morning exerciser. Like get up at, I remember at one point in time, I woke up at 4:07 every morning.
No kidding.
My alarm was set for 4:07. Yeah.
Why the 07?
It was just, I don't know. It started at like 4:15. I was like, oh, I can get up a minute earlier. 4:14.
Oh, wow.
Then I got to 4:07, and it just worked out. And it was just one of those things I kind of liked.
Yeah.
But anyway, all that to say, now, however, where I'm going with all this is now I train later in the day. And it started for me about a year ago. I guess one of the things that came out of COVID for me was when COVID started and everybody had these huge concerns with my schedule, I noticed, hey, I've got an opening that I normally don't have between 1 and 2, or I've got an opening between 11 and 12. Hey, I'm going to work out before I eat lunch today, whatever. And I noticed for me, I'm 48. I was like, wow, I feel more prepared in the afternoon hours than I do at 5 o'clock in the morning. Physically prepared, that is. You know, where in the morning I get up and, I mean, there were some days I would train and I felt best when I was in the shower.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, now I'm ready to really train.
Yeah.
You know, but now since I started training later in the day, after moving all day, because my job requires me to be physical, you know, I'm getting in different positions, and by then I've moved and squatted and hinged and bent over and you know, what have you. So I can go out on the floor and you know, do what I need to do to get my body prepared for that day's session in a matter of, you know, 10 to 15 minutes. Whereas before it would take me 30, 45 minutes. I'd want to get to the gym so that I could get my body warm and ready. So anyway, all that is a long-winded answer.
No, I
to your
appreciate
question.
it because I was curious about it.
So now my morning routine, when I say I move, I don't train like I did. Now, like I said, I reserve that for later in the day. But what I do in the morning is I'll either go for a walk, you know, for 5-10 minutes, or I'll jump on a stationary bike for 5-10 minutes. Just to something to kind of elevate my body temperature a little bit.
Okay.
And then I get down on the floor and I do some mobility / stability stuff. I've got like 5, 6, 7 things that I like to do that involve moving my hips, moving my ankles, moving my shoulders. A couple things, you know, for my spine. I do like a bird dog, a little McGill. I do has come to be known as like the McGill Big Three. And McGill is this back guy from Canada. So I'll do planks, bird dog, side plank.
Every day?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it takes me literally with say I jump on the bike for 10 minutes and then I go through my little mobility stability spiel.
Yep.
It takes me maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Yep.
And then by that time, like I said, then I'm kind of at my hour. And then I take my cold shower, get dressed, walk out, eat breakfast, and then I ready to start my day.
It's a really strong routine. You get up at 5? Or what?
I get up right now. I'm getting up at 5:42.
Okay.
So
That's a theme with you.
yeah.
5:42. Man, I had it dialed in, dude. There was about 2 weeks before time change where I was waking up about 5:50, 5:52, no alarm clock. Dude, I'm 36 years old and I have not grown to appreciate an alarm clock. When that thing wakes me up, I don't know. I'm such a baby. I just hate it. But I like to get up early. I feel good. You feel ready for the day. And I was getting up like 5:50, 5:52, 5:55. Like my body was just waking up for the 2 weeks up to time change. And then time changed and that, it leaped forward an hour. And now I'm waking up that same time, but it's now 6:52. And I just like to get up at 6 a.m. That feels really good. 5:45 to 6 a.m. feels good. Yeah. If I get up later than that, I just feel like I'm not ready for the day. But
right.
All right. Well, I'll let you go. Anything else you want to leave with the listeners before we wrap this up?
If you're interested in what we do at Resilient, check out our website. It's www.resilienthp.com.
Okay.
We do have a small social media presence.
No, it's good. I saw it
on Instagram.
Yeah, that's resilient _HP.
_HP.
Yeah, and resilient RESILIENT.
Correct.
For people that are.
Yep. And we're in Brentwood. Like I said, the website has a place where you can email questions or whatever. Or if you're in the area, just come by. I think that's the best way to get an idea of what we do and what we stand for, is to just walk in, see us, talk to us, and kind of get in a little bit of the experience. So, I guess that, and I just appreciate the opportunity you've given me tonight to talk.
Yeah, man. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'd love to have you back on again someday if the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah,
so,
I would welcome that.
Yeah. Josh Renkens, thanks for your time, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.